that thing out.
Good morning, everyone, and welcome to Military Mondays. If you and I don't know each other, I would love to get to know you. Please either private message me or put a comment in the chat below and I can reach out because I would love to get to know you. I am a 27-year Air Force veteran, have served on pretty much all sides of the military. My dad was Air National Guard, then I served active duty, then I was a spouse, then I was a reservist. So there were a few things that I didn't do, but I served on most sides of the military. I didn't serve in the other branches like Paul, the Navy, but but I did serve pretty much on all sides of the Air Force. And so with that, I have a lot of knowledge that I can pass on and help mentor people. And every single Monday morning, I like to highlight a veteran or a military or a spouse-owned business to get the word out, because I truly believe that the universe, the world, wants to support military businesses. And so it's just my small way of helping out and getting the word out. So without further ado, I have a very, did I say very enough, dear friend on today. Paul and I have known each other for,
six,
seven years, something like that.
Something. We're just having so much fun, we forget about the time, as always, but, the military veterans, we have a camaraderie, we have a feeling, we know who's who, and we're always willing to help. And that's where, you and Mike, for your audience, you and I, Mike, when we first met up in Salt Lake City, you know the story, but they didn't know that I borrowed airline miles to go to this event. And I had like 6 protein bars for a 3-day event because I really had no money, in a hotel room, and I didn't tell anyone that. I was just going to do my thing, because some of the things that we're involved with, I always say you have to make events. So if you're a business person or even a vet, make events. I mean, events can change your life. And so that's how we met. You guys reached out in kindness to me, and it's been a great relationship ever since then, and a bunch of different ways, not just one thing, but just a bunch of different things that we're involved with that we cross paths. And in the military, you learn to cross paths, because although I was just a reservist, I was a Sea Air Mariner.
Wait a minute. You're not allowed to say just a reservist. I was a reservist too, Paul.
But I didn't do my active duty was boot camp and school, and then I went back as a reserve. And but military in my family goes way back to the Civil War. And I don't know about those relatives, but all the relatives in the present generation, from my grandfather in World War II to myself, we've either gone to war but we've all returned. So, that's a blessing. There's thousands of families out there that haven't had that opportunity, and we understand that. And, my grandma, I still have some of the flags that my grandma used to hang in the window when they were off at war, and those type of things, kind of family heirloom type things. And, but it creates a camaraderie amongst people. And I really suggest that people get involved with their local veteran association. I get a national newsletter. We'll put this link in the comments also, but there is a thing called Vet Tick.
Yeah.
What it is if you don't know about it, it gives you the ability to get tickets to events where people have donated the tickets for veterans. There are a couple of qualifications, you need to go, you can't resell them, but I came across that recently. I'm like, well, that's a nice thing that people do for vets. So people take care of the veterans, because we are the ones that have decided to sacrifice, if necessary, our lives for the life of our country and the way of life and freedom. Everyone lives life a little different, but it's the freedom to live that life. And so I'll get off my soapbox, but it's important, most vets know that, but it's not all vets that listen to this. So it's important that, and there's so many benefits out there.
There are. We went to a concert. We learned about it a couple of years ago from another veteran friend. And we ended up going to a concert in Las Vegas at no cost. Now, some of them there is a small cost to, but a lot of them, the tickets are free, and
free.
you just gotta keep an eye out, and you can put reminders on or notifications on that tell you events that are coming up the weekend. And a lot of times they're last minute. You can't book a month or two out there when there are tickets left at events, that seats aren't sold, that the venues tend to offer those tickets for free, or people who can't go donate them to veterans. So it is a great program. And I don't want Paul to belittle himself just a reservist, because the reserves is a very important part of our military, because the reserves are the people who, depending on whether you're a traditional reservist or an IMA like I was, IMA's backfill for active duty that deploys. So somebody's got to do the mission stateside. And we always need extra forces when we're in wartime or conflict situations. We always need a surge of people. And so it's our reservists are a very important part. And today, the reserve forces is even growing, from what I understand. I'm not keeping up on it as much, but because as we downsize the active duty, we've got to still have that reserve force to fill in if anything happens. So
exactly. And my grandfather was he was a reservist. He was a superintendent for schools up in Oklahoma and northern Texas. And when World War II came out, he called up. A lot of times when it's a wartime, is they'll call you up and they'll keep you active, and then after it's over, they may put you back to reserve. You may gain some rank, and you may keep it, or you may not. They kept him. He stayed in, for his, 20 years or whatever it was, And but yeah, we are a necessary component, because we are trained, we're skilled. That's why we do our weekend duties. So just to keep fresh. And my story is, I didn't go to Desert Shield or Desert Storm because my unit was stationed out of South Korea. And the thought then was that if they move forces out of South Korea, the North might take an opportunity, because that's always a hotbed of activity over there. So that was, my wife's thankful, but it is what it is. It just comes from a long generation of, grew up in the military, grew up on the retired military side of El Paso, and it's just, the girls married mostly military guys, just because it was in the whole, that was the lifestyle. It was nothing to go, oh, that's kind of weird. It's so, you live as a Army brat, military brat, whatever brat, you live the lifestyle in it, and it's kind of inbred in you. So going to volunteer and sign up is not out of the ordinary, should I say.
Yeah.
But it is, I'm still in touch with a couple of friends. They did 20 in active duty, and someone has to move the Marines anyways. So
exactly. Yeah.
Just got to get that in there for all those Marines.
Yeah, we got to poke some fun at the other branches. Yeah.
Yeah, that's they say all kinds of things about all the services, but it's about having fun. It is a brotherhood or a sisterhood, no matter what. I was watching a show this weekend, and American ended up with Canadians. So they gave him a Canadian uniform and a Canadian helmet, and it was an old World War II type movie, and he just fit in with another military service, because it's relatively all the same.
Yep. Yeah, I worked right alongside the Canadian forces here at NORAD Northcom, and but like you said, that instant bond when we met on the train in Salt Lake City is, there's something about the military. Doesn't matter if you ever served together, like you said, there's a bond that it's like an instant family, instant friendship when you meet somebody. And we felt that way about Paul, and obviously Paul felt that way about us, because he kept in touch with us all these years. So
it's fun. It's good. The world is so connected, but it's great to be able to keep up with people and just share some commonalities and learn about each other. With your grandson, getting to see pictures of him on Zoom and stuff like that, and just lighten up your life and Mike's life, and I'm pleased to say, I think one of my cousins he's in ROTC, so the legacy continues is what I'm hoping for.
Yay.
yeah, it's just one of those family tradition type things. But
Awesome.
happy
So
Thanksgiving too. That's right around the corner.
it
It's hard to
is.
believe. It's like,
It
wow,
is.
you know.
So, Paul, you grew up in a long line of military. You were a military brat, as we say, when you're a child of a military member. And I truly believe that there are skills that, whether you are a child, a spouse, or a veteran yourself, or a military member yourself, that you learn that are critical to a business owner. So owning your own business. I think a lot of people in the military, when they get out, they don't realize the skills that they've learned. Let's talk about those skills that you learned in the military that make you successful in business today.
And there's so many things, from the start of boot camp where they take everyone from where they are. For the guys, I know it's not the same for the girls, but they cut all our hair off, so we all look the same. So they're making us the same, and they kind of put us way down and they build us up. Their job is to build us up into a unit. So we understand, as small business owners, we may start a business, but we also understand that it takes a group to work together. You're not out there by yourselves. A lot of people think, well, I'm the only one that can do this in my business, and you have to realize that it takes a group, a community, several people to, make it go forth. So you rarely hear about a single soldier. That does happen, but they go out in companies or brigades or something like that. They go out as a force to be reckoned with, whether it's a small SEAL team or it's the Halo jumpers that jump into things, or the thing I was watching was the gliders, about the gliders in World War II. There were always more than just one person. It may end up one person doing their thing, but they started as a group. They're formed, and there is a leader, and the respect for the leader, the respect has to be earned, but it also has to be given. We're always told you're not saluting the person, you're saluting the rank. So you may or may not like who your upper command is, but it doesn't really matter. The job at hand is to be respectful, do your job. We also understand that being there, being on time, listening to your, making your commitments, not only to yourself, but to those that are around you and or that are helping you in your business. I joined a high-end networking group in Dallas. When I joined it, I committed to myself that I would go. I got up one Wednesday and I'm like, oh my gosh, I'm so tired. I was just like, and I thought, I'm going to skip this one. And I remember, if you can't commit to yourself, how can you commit to someone else? How can you commit, whether it's a spouse or an employee or another meeting? So, self-commitment. We have to, in the military, you have to shine your shoes. They have to look right. Your uniform has to be, you can get help from other people, but you initially have to get your uniform on, and it better not be wrinkled, because no one's going to iron your chest, while you're maybe a Marine once again, but if you're wrinkled, you're going to get in trouble. Right. So a lot of it behooves on you, and you have to learn, so I still fold my clothes the same way as I did in boot camp. It just works. You get into that lifestyle.
It's ingrained in you.
Yeah, it is. And they used to give me a hard, in boot camp, we all know they had come up with sayings. So I was from Texas. They're like, well, no, I'm not going to say. I'll say it anyways. Whatever. It doesn't really matter. We're not trying to be politically correct, but it's just some of these things pop up. There's two types of people that come from. There's two types of things that come from Texas: steers and queers, and I don't see any horns on you. But the bonding, we learn to bond with people. Like, well, I've bonded with you and Mike. I bonded with several other people, and we can talk to people. We can get out there. We're not shy. We're not afraid, because in the military, about every 3 years, you're off to another post, and you got a whole new set of friends.
Yep. And I want to go back. I want to go back for a second, in them, they say from Texas, it's one of two things, but it doesn't matter where you come from. That's a part of them breaking you down and trying to destroy you. Like that's what military training is all about, is to break you down so much that you have to rely on other people and be that unit, be that team, that you can't do it yourself. And that's what we did at our field training. Is they gave us, the more crap they gave us, the more we laughed and had fun, and they didn't like that, so they gave us more crap, but it didn't matter, because we learned that if we stuck together, that you couldn't, it's sort of like even in marriage, you bring two people together, it's like a cord of 3 strands, and it's really hard to break that cord. And it's the same thing with the military, is when you come together as a unit, it's really hard to tear down that unit, because there's so many strands as a part of it that you'd have to break a whole bunch of those strands in order to break the unit down. And that's what they're trying to do in training.
Right. I mean, it's so important, because when you get into the heat of battle, I wish I could remember the book that I was reading, but they were talking about how the unit's going to go out, and the commander or whoever's in charge of the unit is going to make a decision. And sometimes it's going to go to the left instead of the right, and it saved everyone, but it's that part of the unity that you're going to say, well, okay, we're going left. And someone goes, no, half of us are going right. No, that doesn't work. That's what they're trying to instill in you as a unit, unless you're told, okay, we're going to go some this way, some that way. It's a follow the leader type thing. And it's not on anyone, because some people don't like to play follow leader, but they're trying to get us all to do the same thing, so that keeps us out of harm's way. A fighting force is better than a fighting person.
Yeah.
It's the same thing in business. I surround myself with people that are like-minded to a point. Bosses should not want yes people. You want someone that has a different thought, that may be smarter than you, because everyone comes, and once again, in the military, when we all come from different parts of the country, different parts. So we learn, the biggest thing we learn is we're all going to get sick, because everyone brings different kind of bugs with you. But you learn about people, and that's another thing that building the group is, you learn. You want to talk about diversity? You're all diverse, and you know what? Everyone does push-ups forever. It just doesn't matter who you are or where you came from. It's those type of, when one person gets in trouble, we used to hate it, because they'd line us up and all right, quarter turn right, that means push-ups, because it was just enough room in our boot camp group to do push-ups. So we knew if every time they told us quarter turn left or right, it was time for push-ups. We'd not necessarily done anything, but once again, just making everyone work together, and just like, yeah. And we had a couple people that we would kind of try to shield in our group, that were not the best marchers, because that's what they're looking for, right? When you watch some of these shows, like what was that one with Mel Gibson, when they were oh gosh, The Patriot? No, one of them, when they were in fighting the British, they're always taking the leaders and the weakest people. That way everyone else would get confused. So our job as a unit is to work together and help those that need a little extra help.
Yep.
And you'll see that in wartime movies. There's always seems to be one guy that's a little afraid or something, but there's some guy that grabs him by the something and drags him along and says, come on, you can do it. And in the end, he's this hero. But that's that camaraderie. But we need that in business too.
Well, and I was going to say, the other thing you talked about, Paul, was, we move every 2, 3, 4 years, depending on the state of the country at the time, and how often moves happen. But the other reason why we move that often is to bring in new expertise, to learn from people. And you didn't really target in on that, but I was thinking of it as you said that, and it's like, oh yeah, that's why we move every 3 to 4 years, so that you don't get stuck in a rut, because you bring in new ideas, and it reinvigorates the base, the flight, the battalion, whatever it is, to to be able to keep thinking outside the box and not get stuck.
Right. Because getting stuck is not a good thing. And, you know, and you know, you asked me on because, you know, you're doing business people that are veterans, and it all leads to the same thing. We don't want to get stuck in business, because then that means that we're either not making sales, or we're closing down, or we're not being able to pay the payroll taxes or something like that. And change is not a bad thing.
Yep.
You know, and that's the movement, you know, of the military, but it's the movement of business. Things have to change. I mean, look at the world we're in with all these, you know, everyone's heard the word Bitcoin. They may not all know what it means, but we've all heard it. And now all these stadiums that used to be named after Cheetos and all these weird things, you know, now there's a Bitcoin.com station. I mean, it's a stadium. And then I think yesterday they announced another crypto something stadium, you know. But if you're in business and you're stagnant, that's what's going to happen. You're going to stagnate, and you're going to become like a Blockbuster, or, you know, they had the opportunity to buy Netflix, but everyone's going to come to the store and get VHSs. You know, they were stagnant. You know, Sears used to be the world's largest store, and that's where, you know, the Sears catalog that was this big for Christmas, and all the kids would circle and all that, you know. And it was great package delivery. It was UPS and FedEx all tied to one before, because you could order and then go pick it up. And where is it now? It's been struggling for years and years and years, and it's dying a slow death. They didn't change, neither did, you know. So in business, you come up with an idea or a concept that you think will work. You shop it. So I shopped my business for a couple of years, and it's a golf product. We'll show it here in a second, but I would give it to other golfers and say, what do you think? Do you like it? Do you not like it? Is it good? Is it bad? Does it help? Is it something you would buy? You know, what's your feeling? And everyone, you know, I get comments like, I've been looking for this all my life, or this is a great product. And even though it may not look like this high-end product, it doesn't have to. It's a visualization tool, and everyone that uses and buys it, they're putting. It's a putting device. Their putting changes instantly, and that in golf, you drive for show and putt for dough. You know, that's where the money is made, close to the hole. And so in golf is a multi-billion-dollar industry, like a lot of different other industries are out there. And everywhere you turn, you can find a golfer. They may not be good at it. They may be hackers, but, you know, in not in so much the computer sense, but digging holes on the golf course.
So I'm gonna put in a plug here. People need to stick around till the end, because there's a special at the end. So we're gonna tease you to stay till the very end. Right. and learn more about this I Putt Better. And we've seen the product. It's amazing. We've heard lots about it. I'm not a current golfer. I was a golfer in the Air Force. I was the one that would drive the ball and it would go straight. And the guys would slice it or whatever. And they'd always take mine. We'd play a best ball tournament, because mine would be right in the middle of the fairway. It didn't go very far, but it was right in the middle of the fairway.
Okay, you know.
And that's what I Putt Better helps you with on the green instead of driving. Is going.
Yeah, there's a lot of tree trimmers out there in the golf space. They're whacking a tree. You know, there's a meme that I see. It's like, when I do drive straight on a golf course, it's straight into a tree. It's straight into a windshield. It's straight into a golf course. It's never where it needs to be. You know, and golfers understand that, because we sit there at tournaments and watch these guys, and not a lot of them hit it straight. You know. And it's even worse when I was watching the FedEx Championship last year. The top two guys in the world, this number two, he was killing me because he was missing all his putts. And had he made one or two, he would have passed the other guy, because he was having some issues too. I was just watching. These are professionals. You know, we all struggle in areas, and putting is a struggle. And the difference between first and second place was $10 million. First place was 15, second was 5. And it's like, wow. You know, who knows what they're going to do with the money, but still, that's a crusher, you know?
Yeah. It really does come down to the putting game, because the long game, you know, most golfers are really good, except me. I won't call myself a golfer. I was an amateur, but most golfers are good at the long game, or really, really hone in on their skills of the long game. and they go to the driving range and they work on that drive. But how many of them actually work on the putting green to gain 1 or 2 strokes off their game every single hole?
Right. And that's all it takes, and one of the things I tell people about putting green is where it's different. Let me show you our product. I'll show it to you in the box. It's a visualization tool. So we've got lines going this way, lines going this way. You don't have that on putting green. So when you're putting, you're just hitting it. So what we do here, let me break it out. I'll just take a second. So we don't use a ball. We actually use what we call as a puck. People go, you don't use a ball. It's like, no, you have amateur, I'm backwards, amateur, pro, and tour.
Yep.
And what it is the amateur is the full size of the size of a golf ball. So what you're trying to do is when it's like this, you're trying to line the face of your putter up with the face of the ball and hit it square. So if you hit it square, it's going to go straight. If you're open or closed, it's going to go this way or that way. So if you think about that, if you look at these lines, when I put it, geez, backwards, crazy. I know it's hard to do it on Zoom. If I were to hit it straight, it would go straight down that line, right?
Yep.
If not, it's going to go this way. It's going to go that way. And it's all dependent on lining the ball up. See that line right there?
Yep.
Lining the puck up. And how does your putter come across?
Straight.
Is your putter coming across even, or is it like this, or is it like that? Instant visualization. It comes with its own green.
Cool.
And so you can pretty much put it anywhere. Anywhere you have there's a smaller one that's about 6.5 feet, and the bigger one's about 12.5 feet. So if you have like 12 by 2.5, you can drop it anywhere. I put it on the putting greens when I go to tournaments so they can try it on the green. You can put it in any house that has any kind of flooring. We do take flooring with us because sometimes we end up in parking lots. Parking lots are all cracked up. So we can take 6 pieces of flooring together and make our own little. So you can do a lot of different things. And it's keeping your eye on the ball. So think about the military, keeping your eye on a prize, whether it's a hill, whether it's a valley, whether it's whatever it is, it's focus. And one of the things they teach us in the military is to focus on the task at hand, get to your objective the best way you can. Here's the plan, but sometimes those go awry, but strive, just keep going. Just do your best to keep going. And, and if you have to retreat, it's one of those things, but you want to do your best. And in the military, they push you to be your best. They push you, but that's why they make you run and do push-ups and do sit-ups. And they want to get you in physical shape, because carrying bags of ammo and rifles and even ammunition up to for on the ships, it's all heavy. Even though you have assistance, everything is heavy. It goes back to that. He's not heavy, he's my brother. We all know that. And that's part of the military, but it's also part of business. We are out there to help people, depending on what it is. If you're a veteran's assistant, you're assisting people. There's all kinds of assistants. Mine is an assistant thing to help you get better at putting, because everyone bets on a golf course, just in case you didn't know that. So what I tell people, I said, buy it, take it home, invite your friends over, bet them, and then it'll pay for itself.
I love it.
Everyone loves that. It's like, hey, that's a great idea. So usually these are small enough. I usually carry them around in my pocket if I'm out somewhere. I drag one out of my pocket, because people go, what do you mean you don't use a ball? So it's not going to fly up and break a window if you're in a house. That's a good thing. It's not going to roll under something. I mean, it does move. You'd be surprised. It's a nylon green. It's printable. We print that on there. Right now I'm doing orders for Christmas where people are putting their logos on them, using them for marketing tools, because people market and people golf. So every time you roll out one of our greens, it's going to have their logo on it, and they'll remember, and they'll have their website on it. So multi-versatile product where it's any kind of gift, any kind of business can use it. And I have a gentleman, he's like, I'm practicing 10 minutes a day.
Nice.
So I told his friends, you want him on your team next year.
Yeah.
It's like, and I told him, charge them to be on, tell them it's going to cost them, because you've been practicing.
Be on the team, because they're going to win. So
that's right. They're going to win. And, like you said, a stroke or two.
Yep. That's all it takes.
That's all it takes. It's, I don't know if you know Erin Bear. She's up in Colorado, north of you guys in Broomfield. She's a golf pro at a club, and she uses this with her students,
Cool.
as another training device. So when you talk about everyone helping everybody, it's in golf is it's a great walk.
Awesome. Well, I appreciate you being on today. I know we have a special for our viewers because the holidays are right around the corner, whether you celebrate Christmas or Hanukkah or whatever it is. Maybe you have a family member that's a golfer that has a birthday coming up. Paul has a great offer for anybody watching Military Mondays. So what is that, Paul?
Yep. So if you go to my website, it's and I came up with the name. Here's the story for the name. I'm driving home one day going, if I'm going to start a business, what do most golfers want to do? And in my mind, they want to putt better. So I thought, I putt better. Went home, it was $1 on GoDaddy. So I'm like, score, right? As a businessman, or woman, you're trying to watch your expenses. So I'm like, hey, I can spend $1. So it's iputtbetter.com with 2 T's. If you put 1 T in there, it's still going to get to the same place because I bought that domain. Because in business, you learn if you have a unique name that can be spelled a couple different ways, go out and buy the other domains and just push them all to that one. Because I was sitting there watching a guy and I put better with 1 T, and I'm like, so I bought that domain and just have it go. So it's iputtbetter.com. When you check out, if you put Military Monday on there, you'll get a 20% discount and free shipping.
Nice.
So, when you're talking about Black Sunday and all these things, it's a game changer. There's some videos on there. We're producing more videos. It's that's why I'm not a golfer either, to tell the truth, but I'm an entrepreneur and I'm a businessman. I thought, wow, this can really impact a stroke or two. And that's all it takes. 1 stroke can win you a game, which can be bragging rights, be a trophy. It can be money. We want to see you on a pro tour too, talking about the Delta putt. I'm actually a distributor for a gentleman out of Oregon, but I've created my own company around this. We will be adding more products, creating a funnel for smaller golf businesses that are kind of regional, so we can get out into each other's regions. There's a ton of good products out there, and they're not all from the big 2 or 3 or 4 or 5. It's the small businessman in America, small businesswoman that really drive the economy. So think about when you're buying, go small.
Yep.
Are you going to pay a little more? Yeah, you might, but you're really supporting a family. If this were from a big box, they could make hundreds and thousands of them. These are pretty much, I order them and they create them.
Yep.
But he does it really quickly. He has a great staff. So it's not like you're going to wait 6 or 8 weeks, depending on the post office. So you can get them in a good time frame. So you don't always have to walk into a big box. And we should, because, in the military, we have our own stores, whether it's the PX, the BX, the commissary, that type of stuff. That is semi-shopping local because that money stays with the base.
Yep.
So think about who you're supporting. Support your fellow veterans. Support your U.S. manufacturer. This is made in America. I'm a veteran, so we put it out there. We want people to have a good product, have some fun. We don't really talk business on the golf course. We just have fun and we talk business afterwards. So
Cool.
That's in the business. Everyone says, oh, you talk business on no, you're just out there, have fun and get to know people. It's a relationship. And then when you go buy some beers, then that's when you start talking business.
Awesome.
But I appreciate you having me on. It's good to see you. It's good to see Mike,
Good to see you too. And with the holidays right around the corner, this is such a great gift. I wanted to have you on. It's perfect timing with the holidays right around the corner. So remember, 20% off. Go to I Putt, P-U-T-T, better, BETTER.com, and then put in Military Monday. Take the S off. Military Monday is your code, and let's get the word out. Let's give a whole bunch of people a discount by sharing, liking and sharing this video so we can get the word out about Paul's business and I Putt Better. And let's just get these in the hands of a whole bunch of people for the holidays and help our loved ones to gain bragging rights or money or whatever it is.
Whatever it is. That's
Whatever
right.
it is in their golf game they're looking for. So
That's right. You know, because we know military play golf. I mean, we know that.
yes, they do.
You were a major. The majors, colonels. You know, I'm not gonna say they're not doing anything, but they're playing golf and racquetball. That's
The
that's some
enlisted
fun.
do too, Paul. So,
I
well,
know.
thanks so much for being on. I appreciate you, just your friendship, and we've done a lot in business together. So I just appreciate you and Susie, and look forward to hopefully seeing you soon. If you are a veteran business owner, please reach out to me. I would love to maybe feature you on a Military Mondays. This time, go to Military Mondays with an S. So militarymondays.info. You can watch past shows, or you can register to maybe be on a future show of Military Mondays. With that, the holidays are right around the corner. I wish everyone a great holiday season, and I will see you.
I got one thing. I got
What?
one quick thing. If
What?
you're new in a military base, go bring a military member to your house for Thanksgiving or Christmas.
Yes.
We did that, and there were people gracious enough that we formed relationships that would take us into their house for a meal, because we are by ourselves. So
Yep.
remember that for the holidays too.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I think I talked about that last week or the week before, adopting a family and helping families out this time of year. There are a lot of deployed folks, and there is the spouse, whether that be the wife or the husband, left home with the kids, and it's a hard time. So please adopt those families, take care of them this holiday season, and we will see you next Monday on
All right.
Military Mondays. Bye,
See y'all later.
everyone.
See you later.